I was tangled up with Violet for 7 years, but she fell in love with my adopted brother. I was tired. I decided to be with Jessica, who had been chasing me for years. Jessica loved me to the bone. She once knelt all the way up a sacred mountain to pray for my well-being and even bought the one-of-a-kind Heart of the Ocean watch at auction for me. But 7 days before our wedding, I overheard someone ask her, "Jessica, you don't love Leo. Why go through with this charade and sacrifice your whole life to marry him?" Jessica's face was hidden in the shadows as she fiddled with the ring on her finger. Her tone was chilling. "As long as I'm alive, I will never let Leo hurt Thomas." Thomas. That's my adopted brother's name. With a trembling hand, I answered a call from my academic advisor and agreed to pursue my doctorate abroad. Later, I heard the wedding was a total disaster. Violet and Jessica got into a huge fight, both desperate to find the runaway groom. When I stood outside the bar that night, I could barely breathe. If I hadn't heard Jessica say it with my own ears, I never would have believed her love for me was all a giant lie. But Jessica, you've loved Thomas from the shadows for so long. Are you really content to just protect him in secret? I like Thomas. That has nothing to do with him. You insisted on getting married on the same day as Violet because you were afraid Leo would try to steal his brother's woman, right? Every time I see Thomas, my heart skips a beat. I'm afraid Leo can't let go of his past with Violet either. He and Violet were tangled up for years. Even though he gave his first time to me and gave up his career for me, it's not nearly enough. Keeping Leo on a leash, forever tied to my side like a dog, is the only way to protect Thomas. Not long ago, Jessica had chartered a yacht to propose to me, and I'd said yes. I thought she loved me so deeply that our 5 years together had finally borne fruit. But I was wrong. She was celebrating finally trapping me in a cage so I could never hurt Thomas again. It's hard to describe how I felt in that moment. After a long pause, I clutched my chest, the pain sharp and searing, and stumbled out into the pouring rain. Jessica came home at midnight. She took off her coat and came to the bedside, finding me soaked and lying in bed with a burning forehead. "Baby, when did you go out? You're burning up." I was shivering uncontrollably from the cold. My jaw was clenched tight, couldn't make a sound. It was a stress response, a total shutdown after the betrayal and deceit. Jessica was terrified. "Leo, don't bite your lip so hard, you're bleeding." Without hesitating, she stuck her index finger into my mouth, her expression a mask of fear and worry. It was like I was transported back all those years. My parents had abandoned me in the mountains for Thomas's sake. I had fallen off a cliff and nearly died. Jessica, braving a torrential downpour, had knelt and bowed every few steps all the way up a sacred mountain, just to pray for my health. When I saw her forehead covered in bloody marks and her knees scraped raw, saw her limp when she walked, I let go of my resentment toward my parents and Thomas. I chose to be with her. But tonight, I heard Jessica tell her best friend. Back then, I knelt all the way up that mountain to show the heavens my sincerity, so that Thomas's heart would get better. Leo just got lucky and pulled through on his own. With all the strength I could muster, I bit down hard on Jessica's slender finger. The thick, metallic taste of blood instantly filled my mouth. Jessica didn't pull away. She seemed not to feel the pain, her face filled with anxiety. "Leo, bite down. Please just don't hurt yourself. I'd rather you break my finger." I finally let go. Her blood, I found it disgusting. Jessica rushed me to the hospital that night. She held my hand, staying by my bedside the entire night without a wink of sleep. How touching. I heard the young nurses whispering, "Ms. White loves her fiancé so much. She's been up all night taking care of him." To the outside world, the heiress of the White family was cold and aloof, uninterested in men. Only I knew the truth. She was worried that if I couldn't make it to the wedding on time, it would throw a wrench in Thomas's happiness. When I woke up, Jessica was there, carefully feeding me porridge one spoonful at a time. The finger I'd bitten was wrapped in thick gauze. But it was me she was worried about. "Leo, I wish I could be sick for you. Please, get better soon for me. Okay?" I emotionlessly swallowed the porridge. I suddenly realized this was our last breakfast together. An ocean of sorrow churned inside me. I wanted to scream, to tear everything apart, to demand answers. The Jessica I once knew had stood just a step away, waiting for me to notice her. Slowly, I had fallen for her overwhelming affection, only to discover, in a single night, that it was all a lie. She had just used the pretense of love to trap me in a cage. I finally broke down and cried. Jessica panicked, pulling me into her arms and wiping away my tears. "Leo, does it hurt that much? I'll go get the doctor." She pulled out her phone. Just then, she received a text, and her face went pale. "Leo, something urgent came up at the office. Take your medicine and get some sleep. I'll be back to stay with you soon." Before I could say anything, she pushed open the door and hurried away. I quietly looked at my own phone. Thomas had just posted on his social feed. My heart's feeling a little weird. The background was a sterile white hospital room. Remembering the frantic look on Jessica's face as she left, a sharp pain lanced through my heart. My phone buzzed again and again with a string of taunting messages from Thomas. "Bro, Violet managed to snag that tuxedo you wanted for me. And that church you wanted for your wedding? Mom and Dad secured it for me. As for that Heart of the Ocean watch from the auction, you think my future sister-in-law will give it to me?" A man's sixth sense is a strange thing. When you're lost in the maze of love, it seems to completely fail you. But the moment you wake up, all the clues and telltale signs jump out at you. In recent years, Jessica, who had jumped on the AI bandwagon, had surpassed both my family's and Violet's family's businesses. Her company grew by leaps and bounds. But whenever something of mine was taken, Jessica would look helpless. "That Violet is too cunning. Don't worry, Leo. I'll find you an even better tux. Your parents are just playing favorites. I'll convince them to come to our wedding, I promise." With her power now, it wasn't that she couldn't win. It was that she couldn't bear to see Thomas upset. The sky was a dull gray. I walked toward the VIP wing. When I was 9, our nanny kidnapped me and sold me to a family in a remote mountain village. I was rescued 3 years later. There wasn't a single part of my body that wasn't scarred. When my mother saw me, her heart ached, and she started to embrace me. But next to her stood the son they had adopted in my absence. Thomas was terrified by my wounds and started crying even harder than I was. My mother panicked. She hugged him tightly and turned to me. "Leo, Thomas's heart is weak. The doctor said he can't handle any shocks. We're going to take him home first." Violet, who had just arrived, gave me a quick glance and left with them. Only Thomas looked back, a triumphant smirk on his face. I stood at the door of the hospital room. My mother was feeding Thomas a slice of apple, her voice full of pity. "Honey, Leo was spoiled by us. That's why he's insisting on having his wedding the same day as yours." My father was fuming. "Don't worry, your mother and I will only attend your wedding." Their tone, dripping with disdain for their biological son while defending their adopted one, made my stomach churn. I felt like I was going to be sick. Thomas tugged on Jessica's sleeve. "My brother is so headstrong. It must be tough on you, Jessica." Suddenly, he clutched his chest in pain. Jessica's face changed instantly. "Thomas, is it your heart? I'll find the best specialist in the world for you." "It's nothing. I just had a dream last night that I wore the Heart of the Ocean watch, and I felt all better." She didn't hesitate for a second. "Thomas, if you like it, I'll go get it for you right now." My parents' faces filled with gratitude. "It's our fault we spoiled Leo. He was always trying to take your things." My heart was so numb it couldn't feel anything more. When someone doesn't love you, even your breathing is a mistake. Twisting the truth, turning black into white, what did that matter? Thomas sent me a picture. He was wearing the Heart of the Ocean, the sapphire watch Jessica had bought for me. I clenched my jaw, desperately trying to stop the bitter sting from welling up in my eyes. Jessica had once told me, "Leo, this watch is the only one of its kind in the world. It represents my undying love for you." Her devotion had been an intoxicating drug. Now, I had woken up to find it was all a lie from the very beginning. Is the adult world just a contest to see who's the better actor? I covered my mouth, chewing on the bitter taste of a broken heart. When I lifted my hand, I felt tears streaming down my face. When my advisor called, I almost dropped the phone. Promised her, I'll book my flight to leave in 7 days. The hospital room door was thrown open. A woman's anxious voice called out, "Leo, where are you going?" Seeing who it was, the heart that had leaped into my throat finally settled. It wasn't Jessica. I spoke coldly, "Violet, you lost the right to ask me anything 5 years ago." Silence. That was Violet tonight. Her father and my father were best friends and had arranged for us to be married when we were children. Growing up, I loved following my big sister Violet around. She took good care of me, too. My first designer watch, my first pair of limited edition sneakers, my first designer briefcase, all gifts from Violet. Marrying her when I grew up became my one and only dream. But during the 3 years I was gone, my father brought Thomas home. He looked a bit like me. Violet's disappointment, my mother's grief, my father's stress, all of it was soothed by this poor little orphan. There was no place for me in my own home anymore. It took every ounce of my strength not to drown in that pain. Violet had been watching my expression, and she said angrily, "Jessica actually gave the heart of the ocean to Thomas. Do you have any idea what that means?" Of course. Where the heart is, there is home. Seeing my lack of reaction, Violet couldn't believe it. "Jessica's heart isn't with you, and you're still going to marry her?" She was agitated. I just felt weary. "Violet, Jessica isn't the first person to abandon me for Thomas. First, it was my parents. Then, it was the woman I thought was my fiancée since childhood. If I had to fight for every single one of them, could I ever win?" Violet's face went white. She didn't know why she had come to tell me all this. Maybe it was the ecstatic joy on Thomas's face when he received the watch that made her uncomfortable. Maybe it was the growing power of Jessica's family, which made my father treat her with increasing deference, that made her feel threatened. Or maybe, just maybe, it was because she had finally gotten a taste of what it felt like to be ignored, just as Leo had been. It was only then that she realized the little boy who used to follow her around had probably been through a lot. For a moment, Violet didn't know what to say. When Jessica saw Violet sitting by my hospital bed, her face darkened. "What are you two doing?" Violet clenched her fists, not wanting to speak. I said flatly, "She came to tell me that you gave the heart of the ocean watch to Thomas." Violet looked at me, her expression wounded. She couldn't believe that the boy who once defended her most fiercely would now lay his own trampled pride bare in front of his rival. Felt like I truly didn't care about her at all anymore. Jessica shot a hateful glare at Violet. After she left, Jessica threw her arms around me and explained, "Leo, it's not what you think. Thomas is your brother, and your parents are so worried about his health. His heart is weak, so he begged me to give him the watch as a sort of good luck charm. It's just like the prayer talismans I got for you when I knelt all the way up the mountain." I remained silent. Jessica swore up and down, making all sorts of promises. "If you like, I'll buy you another, even more expensive set of cufflinks right now." Forget it. I never really liked that stuff anyway. A heart mixed with shards of glass hurts more than anything. Jessica wasn't happy with that. She had her assistant keep an eye on the auction houses, determined to buy an even more brilliant set of ruby cufflinks. She was adamant that I would be the most dazzling person at the wedding. But there was no us anymore. What wedding? I went home to pack my things. Jessica wrapped her arms around me from behind, a confused look on her face. "Honey, your closet looks a lot emptier? The seasons are changing. I wanted to buy some new clothes, but weren't those your favorite clothes? You get tired of things eventually." A wave of panic inexplicably washed over Jessica. "Leo, are you mad at me for not spending enough time with you lately? I told you after we get married, I'll give you a warm home." I followed her gaze. On the dresser was a snow globe. Inside, a happy family lived with their little dog. The memory pulled me back to my 18th birthday, my coming-of-age party. My parents insisted on holding it for both me and Thomas. We wore identical suits. We stood in front of a large cake. Suddenly, Thomas lunged forward and shoved my head down. A toothpick from a strawberry on the cake nearly stabbed me in the eye. Frosting smeared all over my suit. I was a complete mess. Tears of pain streamed down my face. Thomas started bawling. Brother, I didn't mean to. My classmates all play like this, I thought you'd like it. My mother played peacemaker. Leo, Thomas is younger than you. He's just being playful. My father also told me not to make a big deal out of it. I wanted to punch Thomas. But Violet, whom I had known for over a decade, grabbed my wrist and squeezed. She held on so tightly. It hurt. Everyone was on Thomas's side. I was so wronged I didn't know what to say. I straightened my clothes and walked away. No one came after me to comfort me. It was dark when a girl appeared in the park. It was Jessica from the class next to mine. She said she admired me for always getting first place in math. The girl used a tissue to wipe the frosting off my suit. She went to a store and bought me the snow globe, telling me my wish would definitely come true. Later, Jessica learned that my wish was to have a home of my own. She bought me a house and let me fill it up, piece by piece, like a hamster moving into a new cage. The sky blue curtains, the matching couple's mugs, the vase of roses on the dining table. They were all witnesses to our love. Looking into the woman's deep eyes, a thought suddenly struck me. All this time, even back then, Jessica had already been Thomas's guardian angel. The realization sent a chill down my spine. Jessica's eyes were filled with bewilderment. Leo, why are you shivering? Are you cold? My body was cold. My heart was colder. I repeated it to myself silently. Lies. It was all lies. I can't love Jessica anymore. I won't love Jessica anymore. My sudden coldness threw Jessica into a panic. She stuck to me like glue. She wouldn't leave my side. At breakfast, she sat right next to me. I couldn't push her away. When I went to the bathroom, she'd stand outside the door, analyzing the situation out loud. Honey, you don't have cold feet, do you? No way. You love me so much, you've always wanted a home with me. Why would you be afraid to marry me? As I listened to her talk to herself, my mind was consumed with one thought: how to get away from her and go to my parents' house to get my passport. Jessica had to go to an auction. I went back to my family's home alone. Standing at the door, I heard my father say, Thomas is getting married soon. Why don't we give him 10% of our shares as a wedding gift? My mother smiled and agreed. Thomas makes sure the housekeeper stews birds' nest soup for me every day. He's so obedient and filial, he's really won my heart. Then she seemed to remember something. What about Leo? Are we not giving him anything? My father snorted. That ungrateful brat. Ever since he came back from the mountains, he's done nothing but give us attitude and never comes home. It's like we wronged him once, and now we owe him for life. How can we ever rely on him in the future? That wasn't true. At first, I was like a wounded bird. I couldn't wait to return to the safety of my parents' wings. But I found that everything had changed. The room my mother had decorated for me, the video game console my father had bought from abroad, the beautiful watch Violet had given me, they all belonged to Thomas now. I wanted them back. But Thomas would burst into tears on command, clutching his chest as if he were about to faint. My father slapped me across the face. You spent a few years fending for yourself and forgot all your manners? My mother looked at me with disappointment. When I was at my lowest, Thomas was there for me. Where were you then? Where was I? I was being whipped by my foster father. I was washing tub after tub of clothes for my foster mother. Inside the villa, my father's voice suddenly rose. Remember that time Leo got jealous of Thomas and pushed him into the pool? That kid spent 3 years out there and came back completely rotten. I froze. It was clearly Thomas who pushed me, but they refused to believe it. They were convinced that since Thomas couldn't swim, he would never risk his own life just to push me into the water. Forget it. Some misunderstandings are destined to never be cleared up. Some love should have been taken back a long, long time ago. I pushed the door open and walked in. My father immediately started yelling at me. So you finally decided to come home? You're so selfish, always competing with Thomas for everything. My mother sighed. Leo, Thomas is much more considerate than you. He's willing to have a joint wedding with you so that your father and I won't be in an awkward position, so people won't laugh at us for not attending our own son's wedding. I lowered my eyes and gave a cold smile. My father snorted again. Jessica's company is doing much better than Violet's now. Your mother and I got Thomas a new house. You should learn to be content and not ask for one. I smiled, but my eyes were full of scorn. I won't. After all, Dad, you've said before that I can have things you give me, but I can't ask for them. My mother, seemingly oblivious to my coldness, said with satisfaction, Leo, I'm glad you understand. If you just behave, our family will only get better and better. My quiet compliance gave my parents a great sense of accomplishment. They didn't notice that Jessica and Thomas had returned. She looked at my impassive face and suddenly felt a pang of panic. Just as she was about to say something, Thomas hugged my mother and spoke first. Mom, Dad, I love the 5,000 square foot penthouse you got for me. It's right across from Jessica's office. My mother affectionately tapped his nose. You like being in the middle of the action, so your father picked a spot right in the city center. At the dinner table, my father clapped Jessica on the shoulder, looking pleased. Thanks to that friend you introduced us to, we got a 50% discount. His words made me laugh out loud. Just a little while ago, I'd overheard Jessica telling her assistant to secure the landmark building across from her company at all costs. Jessica glanced at me guiltily and mumbled, it was a business friend who was in a hurry to sell. If you want a new house, I'll buy one for you. Don't be upset, okay? I shook off her outstretched hand. Tell enough lies, and it becomes the story of the boy who cried wolf. Only a fool would believe you. I felt the passport in my pocket. 3 more days and I could finally leave them all behind. The high-end tailor shop called to tell me to come in for a fitting. The original suit had been snatched up by Thomas. Jessica had hired a famous designer to create a new, custom-made one for me. I looked at myself in the mirror. The hand-stitched tuxedo seemed to blend the night sky and starlight, with diamonds on the lapel sparkling like a constellation. I had wanted to walk toward the love of my life in a respectable suit. It didn't matter. As long as I learned to love myself, happiness wouldn't pass me by. Thomas showed up. Brother, even an expensive suit doesn't look all that great on you. His words were mocking, but the jealousy in his eyes was impossible to hide. I remained indifferent. Thomas rolled up his sleeve, revealing the watch on his wrist. Brother, Jessica gave me the Heart of the Ocean watch. I told her I wanted the new ruby cufflinks she just bought at auction, and she agreed immediately. How many times has it been now? All I have to do is ask, and I can easily take anything I want from you. Whether it's Mom and Dad, Violet, or Jessica. I could tell he was gloating, but I still couldn't be bothered to respond. Leo, why don't you get on your knees and beg me? Otherwise, be careful or I might just steal Jessica from you too. Thomas, does being a predator make you happy? Yeah. Why were you born a rich kid while I had to be an orphan? I love watching people who think they're high and mighty fall from their pedestals, preferably into the mud. Leo, I will take everything from you. Seeing his confident expression, a sharp pain twisted in my heart. This was a sadness only those who have never been loved can feel. I held back the tears that threatened to fall and curved my lips into a smile. Thomas, only the truly desperate spend their days picking up other people's trash. If you love garbage so much, feel free to collect it all. I didn't want any of it anymore. The final day before the wedding, Jessica tricked me into going to my parents' house. She said they were cooking a farewell dinner for their 2 sons. Thomas was on the sofa, laughing and joking intimately with my mother. Violet didn't look well and was drinking by herself. Once we were at the table, Jessica's tone was full of concern. Leo, Dad's cooking tonight. You should eat more. My father had started as a poor kid, working as a kitchen hand for a master chef. With my mother's family connections, he built a successful empire in the restaurant industry. When I was little, he was too busy with business to cook a single meal for me. Looking at a table full of dishes Thomas loved, I had no appetite. My father slammed his chopsticks down. Leo, what's with the attitude? You're about to get married, and you're still going to give your father attitude? My stomach is sensitive. I can't eat spicy food. You're just so picky. Thomas never complains about food and even praises my cooking. Jessica put a piece of spicy rabbit in my bowl. Just eat a little. I'll make you some stomach-soothing porridge when we get home. Don't make your father unhappy. I was finally done with all of it. I put down my chopsticks, ready to leave the table. Someone felt his paternal authority had been challenged. My father stood up, displeased, and raised his hand to slap me. Smack! It was incredibly loud. My head snapped to the side, my ears ringing. Jessica was horrified. Dad! My father had been drinking a lot. Now his eyes were wide with anger, and he wouldn't let it go. Leo, it's your own damn fault for having such a difficult personality. Who knows what kind of trouble you'll cause after you marry Jessica. While Jessica and a surprisingly intervening Violet scrambled to find me an ice pack, he leaned in and ordered in a low voice, Jessica's career is taking off. Since you're so unlikable, why don't you just call off the wedding and let Thomas have her? So, tonight was an ambush. I laughed mockingly. Giving up Violet wasn't enough. Huh? I have to throw in another one. If you still consider me your father, you'll call off this wedding and give Thomas time to think things through. Looking at the table of half-eaten food, I felt the last shred of warmth between us had been severed. Don't worry. Thomas will get his wish very soon. Back at home, Jessica hugged me. Leo, tomorrow you'll finally be my groom. I've waited for this day for so long. How ridiculous. At my parents' house, I'd heard Thomas say to her, Jessica, you're so good to me. I think I'm starting to fall for you. But I can't let go of Violet. My heart is such a mess. What should I do? Jessica had planted a devout kiss on his forehead. It's okay. I'll wait for your answer before the ceremony is over. When you deeply love someone, are you willing to be their backup plan? No, I wasn't. Jessica kissed my hair, then glanced around the room, her eyes landing on the packed suitcases. Her heart seemed to skip a beat. She asked urgently, what's that? It's nothing. Just as she was about to investigate, her assistant came in to remind her, Ms. White, according to custom, the bride and groom must spend the night before the wedding apart. Jessica wrapped her arms around my waist, refusing to let go. I have a strange feeling that I shouldn't leave Leo. But Ms. White, the presidential suite is ready. Just then, her phone rang. Jessica glanced at the name on the screen and instantly let go of me. I looked down at the message Thomas had sent me. Brother, I've decided to give Jessica a try first before I decide whether to crash the wedding. Being with Violet is just too exciting. I'm not sure I can give that up. Jessica gave me a quick kiss on the cheek. She didn't even glance at my phone. She left without a second thought. I didn't make a move. I called the car service I had already booked, loaded my luggage into the trunk, and disappeared into the night. Jessica lay in Thomas's room, an inexplicable panic creeping into her heart. She had dreamed of this day for so long, but now she felt an emptiness inside, as if she had lost a precious gem. Thomas wrapped his arms around Jessica's neck and whispered in her ear, Jessica, I'll be fine. You don't have to worry about making too much noise. Mom and Dad gave me the best room. It has great light. It's soundproof. This room used to be Leo's? Thomas pouted. So what if it was? Mom and Dad love me more. He doesn't deserve it. Jessica pushed him away. I should go. What if I want to choose you at the wedding? Jessica stiffened. You've loved Violet for years. If you back out at the last minute, it will cause a huge scandal, and it won't be good for your father's company. Thomas stared at her in disbelief. Jessica, are you not going to take responsibility for me? A voice in her heart whispered, the place of Mr. Reed should belong to Leo Reed. As for Thomas, she could protect him for a lifetime with designer watches, luxury cars, and yachts. Before dawn, Jessica rushed back to the home she shared with Leo. She turned on the lights. The house was empty. She called his name several times, but there was no answer. Panic washed over her like a tidal wave. The closet was empty, the desk was cleared, and the couple's photos on the shelf were gone. Only a small brazier sat in the kitchen. In the corner of a half-burnt photo, two hands were clasped tightly. In the trash can lay a shattered snow globe. It was the gift she had given Leo on his 18th birthday. It was the home she had promised him. Jessica felt a chill run through her, a sharp pain in her heart. She couldn't say a word. Her mind went blank. She grabbed her phone to make a call. The phone rang. A flicker of hope ignited in Jessica's heart. Until she found the phone in a drawer. She unlocked it with her birthday. Leo had deleted everyone. He had only left the chat with Thomas and a few audio recordings. Thomas had sent Leo a ton of photos. He was showing off all the things Jessica had given him, including the newly purchased ruby cufflinks. And the conversation ended with, "Brother, I've decided to give Jessica a try first before I decide whether to crash the wedding. Being with Violet is just too exciting. I'm not sure I can give that up." Jessica clenched her fists, her hand trembling as she played the recordings. It was my father's voice. He was warning Leo to leave the marriage for his brother, forcing him to leave. An earlier recording was of her in the bar, laying her heart bare. He and Violet were tangled up for years. Even though he gave his first time to me and gave up his career for me, it's not nearly enough. Keeping Leo on a leash, forever tied to my side like a dog, is the only way to protect Thomas. Boom! Jessica's mind went completely blank. She practically ran to the tuxedo shop in a frenzy. No, Leo loves me so much, he wouldn't give up on our marriage over a little hiccup. But another voice in her head told her otherwise. Lately, Thomas's heart had been acting up, and she had spent every waking moment with his parents, by his side. She had neglected Leo. He had stopped waiting for her to come home for dinner, had slowly cleared out his clothes, and when his parents treated him unfairly, he hadn't told her how much it hurt. After what felt like an eternity, Jessica's phone started ringing nonstop. She answered weakly. Thomas's voice had a hint of complaint. "Jessica, the wedding is about to start. Why aren't you here yet? Leo's gone. Where am I supposed to go?" On the other end, my mother's voice trembled with anger. I thought Leo had finally learned his lesson. He agreed to a joint wedding. How could he cause a scene at Thomas's wedding? My father cleared his throat and said sternly, "I knew he'd never change. He just wanted to embarrass the whole family. Jessica, you know how Thomas feels. If you change your mind, I'll talk to Violet." His words made it clear. He wanted the now powerful Jessica to marry his beloved adopted son. Jessica froze completely. The image of Leo's face, desolate and devoid of any hope for family affection, flashed in her mind. A sharp knife plunged into her heart. The pain was so intense she nearly fainted. No, she had to go get justice for Leo. The wedding was in chaos. To stall for time, my father kept making things difficult for Violet, demanding she invest another $1 billion into my family's company. My mother, head down, was gently comforting Thomas. Seeing her father's old friend act with such coldness, Violet found the situation absurd. How had she never noticed the extent of my family's favoritism toward their adopted son? Leo must have had a terrible time all these years. If he were here, would he be laughing at her, saying you only know pain when the knife cuts your own flesh? Violet was utterly disappointed. "Thomas, if you don't want to marry me, the engagement is off." "Violet, what are you talking about?" Thomas was about to argue when Jessica appeared. His face lit up. "Go take a look in the mirror. With Jessica marrying me, I'll be just fine." But things did not go as he expected. Jessica grabbed Violet by the collar. "Where did you hide Leo? If you hadn't stirred up trouble and told him I gave the heart of the ocean to Thomas, he never would have left me. You're the one who swooped in when he was vulnerable. Otherwise, Leo would have waited for me to come around." The two of them started fighting. Thomas cried out, "I'm the one you should be fighting over, not Leo." The giant screen at the wedding flickered on. Someone had been instructed to publicly display the explosive contents of the phone Leo had left at home. There were also photos Thomas had sent, showing him and Jessica in his bedroom. The guests were in an uproar. Is the Reed family insane? They let the adopted son steal the biological son's woman, and the father forced his own son to give up the marriage. I'm telling you, Thomas isn't Mr. Reed's son. He's his boy toy. My father's blood pressure skyrocketed. My mother fainted from the shock. The scene devolved into utter chaos. I was in an AI lab overseas doing research when I heard about the fiasco. A weight I had carried in my chest for so long finally lifted. I had intended to just walk away. to cut ties with everyone. But if I did nothing, how could I justify a heart that had been deceived for so many years? It's human nature to always want more. If I had exposed everything before I left, my parents would have woven a web of lies to protect their precious adopted son. His heart condition was Thomas's ultimate weapon. It made everyone revolve around him unconditionally. But in this world, being weak doesn't automatically make you right. Jessica's deception, my father's aggression, they would become bullets that, at the right moment, would hit them square in the head. You've wasted a lot of time. Still spacing out? I looked up. My advisor, Dr. Chloe Lynn, stood in the sunlight. In her early 30s, she was already a top expert in the field of artificial intelligence. Cool and brilliant, subtly powerful. We had clashed when I graduated over whether I would continue my studies. Dr. Lynn had looked at me with extreme disappointment. Leo, you are the most talented student I have ever had. To give up a research opportunity abroad for a woman is incredibly foolish. At the time, I was completely enveloped in Jessica's love. When I saw her get hit by a car and break her leg trying to save me, I resolutely gave up my career and stayed. I gave the patent for my research from that year to her company, helping it rise to prominence. Time has passed. I can't blame the love-starved version of myself back then. Only by hitting rock bottom could I finally wake up. 3 years later, Dr. Lynn led her team back to the country. We set foot on familiar soil. We were invited to a high-profile academic conference in the industry. Jessica and Violet were there, one in the front row, one in the back. They watched me on stage, their eyes glued to me. The spotlight shone down. I was confident and articulate, speaking with ease. It was the first time I had seen looks of astonishment and admiration on their faces. I stared straight ahead, giving them no acknowledgement. Dr. Lynn taught me a lot. Don't regret being good to others. Even if you're betrayed, even if you hit rock bottom. Being good to others doesn't mean they deserve it or not, it just means you are a good person. Once you understand that you are the best, you will put yourself first. Prioritize your own well-being in all things, work harder, and become a better version of Leo. Riding on my research, Jessica had taken her company to new heights, leaving my family's and Violet's businesses far behind. But she wouldn't get a second chance. I held a glass of red wine, surrounded by industry titans. They saw my potential and understood the power of Dr. Lynn behind me. They all expressed interest in collaborating. When I finally managed to break away, Violet was the first to push through the crowd. Leo, you've become so handsome. Seeing her slightly embarrassed expression, I fiddled with my cufflink, uninterested in small talk. I didn't marry your brother. At the wedding, the fact that he was two-timing was exposed, and I became the laughingstock of the city. My company faced a crisis, and your father refused to return the dowry and even stole several of my projects. My expression was icy. Are you hoping I'll help you get justice? No. I was hoping that for the sake of our childhood friendship, you would partner with my company and help me through this crisis. I was stunned by her audacity. Violet, are you out of your mind? The moment you called off our engagement for Thomas, there was nothing left between us. I'm not the solution to your problems, so stop trying to pin your hopes on me. The Leo that Violet remembered was gentle and obedient. He would swallow his grievances. He would never humiliate someone in public like this. I splashed the red wine in her face. Go shake your head. See if you can hear the ocean. Violet fled in disgrace. When Jessica arrived, she pulled a warm bag of roasted sweet potatoes from her exquisite handbag. Leo, you haven't eaten all night. Have something to fill your stomach. Her tone was light and easy. It was just like back in school, when she would wait for me outside the classroom in the snow, holding roasted sweet potatoes. From dawn till dusk, when memories become deceit, who can't see through a fake heart? My expression was cold as ice. I can't accept your kindness, Ms. White. Jessica paused for a moment. Leo, you must still misunderstand me. That night, nothing happened between me and Thomas. His heart condition flared up, and he cried that he was uncomfortable and asked me to stay a little longer. I don't know how I fell asleep, and that's when he took the photo. I cut her off coldly. My time is valuable. I don't have time to listen to your old stories. Jessica grabbed my hands, pinning me against the corner of the wall. Leo, you still owe me a wedding. Why won't you listen to my explanation? I struggled to break free. I slapped her across the face with all my might. Jessica's head snapped to the side, a red mark appearing on her cheek. But she didn't seem to care. I admit I used to have feelings for Thomas, but on the last day before the wedding, I finally saw my true heart. For 3 years, I've been searching for you. But your research project was so important that I couldn't find a single trace of anyone involved. Jessica's voice sounded incredibly wronged. When I found out it was Thomas constantly sending you photos to provoke you, I took back that set of ruby cufflinks. I said I would give you the best. Come with me to register our marriage. Okay? I laughed out of anger. Jessica, have you no self-respect? Are you addicted to craving things you can't have? When you were with me, you fantasized about Thomas. Now that I've left, why aren't you shacked up with him? Jessica's voice choked with sobs. She followed me to the underground parking garage. My family, who had been lying in wait, suddenly appeared. Since learning of my return, their calls had been relentless. I had blocked them all. My mother grabbed my hand, her face streaked with tears. Leo, how could you just leave like that and let your brother be humiliated at his own wedding? My father's brow was furrowed in anger. Now that you're back, you'll hand over your projects to the family business. When the parents do well, the children do well. Thomas chimed in, feigning weakness. Brother, as mom and dad's son, where were you when you were making them sick with worry? If I hadn't taken care of them day and night, they'd be bedridden by now. I cut him off. Shut up. My mother was displeased. Thomas's heart is weak. Jessica found him the best specialist for surgery, but he still can't handle stress. I shrugged. There's no cure for stupidity. Thomas has been in and out of the hospital so many times. And you never realized he's your husband's illegitimate son? You even helped an outsider drive your own biological son out of the house. No wonder you drove my maternal grandparents to their graves and Mr. Grant cut ties with you before he died. Nonsense. My mother's face turned beet red as she looked in disbelief at her husband and her adopted son. I pulled a paternity test and proof of my father's asset transfers from my bag. The nanny who kidnapped me and sold me to the mountains back then was your husband's first love. After it happened, he lied and told you she fell off a cliff and died. But she's been living comfortably in a villa he bought her, just waiting for a family reunion. My father's eyes were practically popping out of his head. You ungrateful whelp. You just got back and you dare to investigate your own father? Dr. Lin once said that when you are powerful enough, you will be surrounded by capable people. All I had to do was voice a slight suspicion. Someone helped me analyze the situation and find the evidence. Watching Thomas avoid my mother's venomous gaze, I added fuel to the fire. I've already called the police. By now, your real mother should be in custody. As for you pushing me into the pool, stealing my things, bullying classmates, and driving a girl to jump off a building, I have all the evidence. You can have a family reunion with your mom in prison. You dare. My father lunged at me, trying to slap me. Bodyguards rushed out and restrained him. My mother's anger turned to tears. Mark, I listened to everything you said. And for what? Did a dog eat your conscience? You stupid woman, you can't even control your own son. What good was marrying you? It was as if her love-addled brain had finally woken up. She clawed at his face and kicked him hard between the legs. Wails of pain and venomous curses filled the air. Thomas clung to Jessica as if he were the one who had been terribly wronged. I didn't know anything. Please, get a lawyer to help me. In the past, whenever he cried, she would have dropped everything for him, her heart aching, including me. But now, her face was filled with impatience. Are you done? I haven't even gotten Leo's forgiveness yet. Don't bother me. That sentence was like a poisoned needle, stabbing deep into Thomas's heart. He flew into a rage. He lunged at me, trying to wrap his hands around my neck. I slapped him with the back of my hand and followed up with a flying kick that sent him sprawling and bleeding. When I was at the research center, Dr. Lin would teach me self-defense to pass the time. A little punk like Thomas? I could handle 2 of him with one hand. Jessica acted as if she saw nothing. She even asked if my hand hurt. I ignored her advances, disregarded my mother's desperate pleas, and got into Dr. Lin's car. We sped away, leaving them in the dust. The day my mother came to find me, she looked 20 years older overnight, her face covered in wrinkles and her hair turned white.
Leo, I'm sorry.
I didn't know that dog Mark had been deceiving me for over 20 years. If he hadn't driven a wedge between us, telling me you must have hated me after being kidnapped, I wouldn't have listened to him. But then again, you're at fault too. Thomas knew to have the maid make me bird's nest soup. You did nothing. That's why my heart strayed. I scoffed. Your eyes are blind and your heart is foolish. Don't blame me for being cold. The maid made the soup. What's the use in thanking Thomas? And I bet you didn't know, Thomas was putting something in your milk. It's a slow-acting poison that causes your body to gradually waste away until you're confined to a wheelchair for life. No different from a puppet. My mother couldn't believe it. I treated him like my own son. How could he do this to me? Leo, Mom knows she was wrong. You know so many famous doctors overseas, please help me. Okay? It took all my strength to pull my hand away from her grasp. You reap what you sow. If you expect me to just forgive and forget, you really think too highly of yourself. Mr. Grant cut ties with you because, right before he died, you insisted on making Thomas his son-in-law. You literally angered him to death. I told Violet everything. She will definitely destroy what's left of the Reed family. What good will that do you? You're a Reed too. I don't have parents like you. I've given myself a new name, Alex. A new life. No. Leo, you can't be so cruel to your mother. My mother knelt on the ground, desperately begging for my forgiveness. But I felt nothing. The company Dr. Lin and I founded was unstoppable. It grew at a tremendous pace. Without me even lifting a finger, people eager to build a relationship with me didn't hesitate to devour the market share of the Reed and Grant families. They offered it up as a welcome gift. Jessica started showing up everywhere I went, every single day. She sent me watches, cufflinks, sports cars. It made all the young women around me envious. But I told them, a cheating woman's love is more poisonous than hemlock. One careless step and you're doomed forever. Jessica wasn't discouraged. She bought the penthouse across from mine. She was trying to use her old tricks to move me again. Jessica, have you never heard that you can't unring a bell? The moment I ran from that wedding, I never thought about being with you again. She knelt on one knee and offered me a sparkling ring. Leo, I'm long over Thomas. I took back everything I gave him and even arranged for people in prison to take good care of him and his mother to get revenge for you. Give me one more chance. I will give you all the love in the world. Don't. You're bad luck. Jessica refused to give up. I felt the time was right. While she was neglecting her company, I dealt her a heavy blow in the ever-changing business world. Her company was hit hard. Jessica's first reaction wasn't to salvage it, but to smile. Leo, as long as you're happy, I don't care. Jessica, stop flattering yourself. Without the support of my patents, your company was already going downhill. Don't use this disgusting, devoted act to cover up the fact that you're a failure. Jessica's face turned ashen. She clutched her stomach and collapsed. Fearing she would die at my door and ruin the feng shui, I kindly called her assistant to take her to the hospital. Unexpectedly, she was diagnosed with stomach cancer. Epilogue. The day our company went public, Dr. Lin held my hand. For the past 3 years, we had worked side by side day and night, striving for the same goal. We held nothing back. Our mutual love and devotion showed me the beauty of loyalty. 30, I finally had a true family. A loving wife, an adorable daughter, and a playful, bouncing puppy. The Reed family went bankrupt. My mother sold off all her assets and moved into a rundown urban village, where she hired an unreliable caregiver. She called many times, wanting to see her granddaughter. I flatly refused. To be merciful to those who have hurt you is to be cruel to yourself. Perhaps because her time was running out, my mother used what little money she had left to hire people to severely beat her husband, son, and his mother in prison. When the news reached me, we were having a barbecue on the lawn at home. My daughter noticed a woman in an ill-fitting pantsuit outside the villa, hunched over and peering in. Mommy, is that a homeless person? Constant chemotherapy had made her lose all her hair. Meeting Jessica's panicked gaze, I kissed my daughter. She's just selling insurance, sweetie. You don't have to pay her any mind. Jessica hid behind a wall. She clutched her chest, desperately trying to suppress the pain in her heart. A long time ago, she had dreamed of having a happy family. But the face of the man in that dream was blurry. Now, seeing Dr. Lin standing by Leo's side, blowing on a grilled chicken wing to cool it before feeding it to him, seeing their daughter playfully take a bite, seeing the loving way the woman looked at the father and daughter, Jessica finally understood what it meant to cherish the one in front of you. But it was too late. Those who seek happiness will find their true love. A wavering heart is destined to end up with nothing.